Okay, everybody, welcome to another independent living challenge. Slightly different this week in that I am not running around using washing machines or trying to cook anything for you. I'm going to be sat at this table and I'm going to be kind of talking to you a little bit about managing a household budget. Now, again, if you're already kind of up on this and you know what you're doing and you do this kind of thing already, that's great. Turn me off. Fantastic. If you're still with me, that's great. Hopefully I can kind of give you a little bit of an insight into the cost of kind of running a house and some of the little things that we potentially do within our house to keep costs down where we can, but still obviously managing to enjoy ourselves and not be too stingy. I'm going to kind of talk this through from the point of view of like the average graduate wage. So I've done a little bit of research today, and again, averages can sometimes skew the figures slightly, and it kind of depends where you live and stuff. But one thing I've discovered is that roughly the average graduate wage in the UK is around £30,000. Now that probably sounds like a lot of money, and indeed it is a lot of money. But it won't be like that for all graduates. It all depends, which part of the country you're working in and living in. It depends, obviously, the career path that you've chosen as well. There's lots of different factors, but the average is around £30,000, and that's a starting wage. Okay, just to be clear, that's average starting wage for a graduate, and that's hopefully something that as you progress through your career would go up and up. What's interesting with the average graduate starting wage, though, is it's actually, as near as makes no difference, about the same as the UK average wage for people kind of across the career. So the average salary, the average wage within the UK is also around £30,000. Whereas if you're a graduate, it's likely that will be your average starting salary, and that's something that would go up over time. Okay, so why am I talking about this? Why am I going into this? I'm going to let the cat in because he's scratching on the door. Come in. Hello. Probably scratches it out again in a minute. Why am I talking about it like this? Well, I was going to kind of look at things from the point of view of how things might feel and how things might be when you're first kind of starting out for yourself. And I'll be honest, I'm very lucky in that me and my wife are both in full-time work, and we get by and we can make ends meet. But there are a lot of people in the country where that's very much not the case, and I'm certainly not trying to offend anybody by putting out this information and kind of going through things in the way I'm going through them today. And I do understand that I am in a lucky position that I live in a house and I can afford to pay my bills. And that's obviously because me and my wife, we go to work and we both, earn the money that means we can do that. Not everybody is in that position, and it's not always that simple. So I'm going to kind of look at things from a different point, from different points of view as we kind of go through. Now, the first thing that you might find shocking, and that was the cat rubbing against the tripod with the phone on it, and again, stop doing that. Finished? So the first thing then that you might find shocking is that the headline figure with wages and salaries and things like that don't really bear any resemblance to what ends up in your bank account. And there's a general rule of thumb what I've found through my career is that whatever it says my salary is, whether we're looking at that from a kind of a yearly point of view or a monthly point of view, if I times that figure by 0.67, that roughly equates to what ends up in my bank account, either yearly or each month. And that can be a bit of a bitter pill to swallow. So that basically means that headline figure of £30,000, the average starting graduate wage that I've mentioned, if you times that by 0.67, you end up with £20,100 or there or thereabouts. Okay, which is obviously, just over 2/3 of what the headline salary figure is. And in reality, that's more of a true reflection of the kind of money you would end up kind of having in the bank, which equates to £1,675 per month. Okay. Now that can vary depending on the job that you're doing and the field that you work in. With me working in teaching, just like everybody else, I obviously have to pay tax to the government, and I also have to pay something called national insurance. And national insurance, if we talk about it in a very simplified manner, is me basically putting away money into a pot that will eventually kind of come back to me when I'm old. Or if there's a situation where I've retired, I can claim that back, not literally my money back, but the pot that goes into nationally would kind of pay my pension when I'm older. So that's what your national insurance contributions go to in a nutshell, although it's not that simple. So yeah, to cut a long story short, what we're going to do then is we'll start off by looking at things based on that figure of you earning £30,000 a year, but we're going to base it on the fact that you're going to be paying tax, you're going to be paying national insurance, which is going to put you down to probably about £20,100 per year actual money going into your bank account. And then if we divide that up by 12, we end up with £1,675 per month. Okay, and that's what you would have to live on. So I'm going to talk about what I would describe as essential costs and essential things that you can't really escape to begin with. And then I'll kind of talk about luxury things or extras that you might spend disposable income on. And I'll talk about disposable income a little bit later on. Okay, so we'll get into things then straight away. So the first thing I'm going to look at is rental or mortgage payments. Now, mortgage payments can differ vastly because it's all going to depend on the size of house you've got, how much of a deposit you've got, what percentage interest rate you're paying on your mortgage. Very, very complicated. I don't really want to get into that in this video. So we'll cheat slightly. And what I've researched is that the average rent per month paid in the UK is about 700 quid, £700. Okay. So if I'd got my £1,675 per month that I'm earning from my job after I've paid my tax and everything that's gone into my bank account, on average, if I was living in an average place and renting an average place, £700 of it per month would disappear instantly because that would be me having to pay my rent. Okay, so you can see just how big of a commitment that is, having to pay that rent every month or having to pay that mortgage every month, because if you don't do that, you've not got a roof over your head. So it's an essential payment, and it is in most people's lives the biggest payment that they're making, throughout their lives, and monthly. It's the biggest monthly commitment that most people have. So £700 for rent. And then the other thing that you'll find is it's highly advisable, and in fact, if you've got a mortgage, your lender will insist that you have home insurance, although some people sometimes don't for one reason or another. It's not advisable to not have home insurance, because if the big bad wolf or somebody comes and blows your house down, then you've got no house, you've not got any protection. And again, a little bit of research suggests that the average cost of home insurance per month is about 20 quid. Okay, right, moving further down my list then, I've also put down that having a car is an essential outgoing or an essential cost. Now, people may disagree with that, and there's obviously different ways of having a car or owning a car and getting about, which I accept, and I'll talk a little bit about transport and fuel and stuff in a minute. But for argument's sake, let's say you've already got a car, you are going to have car insurance for that legally. Again, the average cost of insurance in the UK is running at about £490 or around £40 per month. There's different ways of paying for your car insurance. You can pay for it in one chunk, in which case you probably pay a little bit less, or you can pay for it monthly, in which case the cost might be a bit more manageable, but you pay a little bit of interest. You actually pay more throughout the year if you pay it monthly. But on average, it's about 40 quid a month. You may decide that you would like a nice, shiny, brand spanking car, in which case you might be having to pay, monthly payments for your car and stuff. If you've got a little runabout car, if it's a fairly new one and you're paying for that monthly, it could be, starting at anything like 150 quid. But if you want something a bit more flashy, and you're insisted on kind of having something that's new or fairly new, and you are wanting to pay for that monthly, then it can skyrocket, and it can keep going and going. That's not how we tend to do things in our house. We've never really had new cars and things. We don't have old bangers either. We sort of have cars that are a few years old, and we tend to sort of save up and buy them that way, so we don't end up having like a monthly payment attached to it. There's lots of different ways of buying cars, and I'm certainly not going to sit here and tell you there's a right way or a wrong way, but it's something to consider because it could end up being a monthly cost for you. I've got gas and electricity on here as well. On average, in the UK, the average gas and electricity bill combined is around £1,300 a year, so that's about £110 per month. So again, it's a fairly significant cost once you've added that onto your mortgage, and then a little bit of car insurance and house insurance. We're almost up at £1,000 already, out of our £1,675 per month. So that's not necessarily good news. Fuel and transport is a difficult one. This is me kind of talking fuel for potentially a car or transport costs of getting around. I use my wife as a quick example for that because she does a fairly normal, boring, everyday commute in that she drives from Smalley, where we live, into Nottingham each day, or actually she drives to the park and ride. She parks a car there. It's free to park the car there, doesn't cost anything. But then she gets on the tram every day into Nottingham, and obviously she's got to do that twice per day during the week. That tram pass monthly is costing her £55. And she finds that by making that journey in the car down to the park and ride each day and back from home, she's having to fill a car up with fuel about once every 2 weeks. Hello? Get off there. Oh. So once every 2 weeks, filling the car up, and again, all cars are different. She's got a reasonably economical car. It's nothing flashy, it's nothing exciting, it's nothing expensive. It does an average amount of miles per gallon, but it still costs us 70 quid every 2 weeks to fill that up. That's £140 per month, potentially being spent on that car just to get to work and back in fuel. So again, that kind of adds up. Next one I've got is food. And again, people's food shops vary. We live in a household where there's 4 of us. In an average kind of normal week, we might spend something like 120 quid at Morrison's, which is obviously, getting on for £500 per month. It all adds up. It's a lot of money. Obviously, if there's less people in the house, then that cost could dip significantly. And again, there's different places that you can shop. There's different ways that you can save money. But for a lot of people, the convenience of just being able to turn up to one place once a week and get things done kind of overrides wanting to go all over the place. You might want to go to Home Bargains and buy like your toiletries and stuff like that, but it might cost you 3 quid to get there in the car and fuel and stuff. So does that offset the saving you've made by going all over the place? I don't know. That's for someone else to look at. But yeah, again, sort of our average weekly food shop's about 120 quid. It'll be significantly less than that if you live on your own, or if you just live as a couple as opposed to a family of 4 in my situation. We've then got council tax, which if you're single, you live alone in Amber Valley, it's about £85 a month, something like that, depending on the size of your house, that is. For us, it's running at more like £140 per month, so £140 a month we have to put into council tax, and that's paying for all sorts of stuff going on in the background, all your council services like getting your bin emptied, roads being resurfaced, potholes being filled in. It also pays for the police locally and for the fire service locally. So council tax, again, is just one of those things that you haven't got no choice about it. It will be monthly expenditure that you've got to plan for. You've then kind of got other stuff. Water, I nearly forgot. Obviously you can't live without water. And again, it will depend on where you live, exactly what your water consumption's like. I mean, I like to think that we're fairly good with water. We don't do things like leave the taps running when we brush our teeth. We're very good with stuff like that. We don't leave, we don't waste water excessively. I believe that we don't anyway. I believe we're quite savvy with the water, but we're still having to pay about £35 a month for it for a family of 4. So again, that's another monthly expenditure that you've got going out that you've not really got that much control over. Yes, there might be some things I can do to mean that I use less water, but I'm not entirely sure what that might be. But you could maybe reduce that by a few quid, but you're not going to be able to reduce it dramatically. There's not that much you can do about it. We're on a water meter, so literally we get charged for the amount of water we are physically using. Certain houses, older houses, you might not be on a water meter, and the water company will just basically guess how much do you think you use and kind of charge you a fixed price based on that. Looking ahead then to other things, I mean, whether you'd class these as being essential or not, you could argue a case maybe either way. I'm going to say they are essential though, so I've also got things on like phone and broadband. Now, a lot of people these days don't bother with a home phone, and that's perfectly understandable. But I think broadband really these days, and having access to the internet, you could probably class that as an essential service. I don't really know how people would get by without being able to use it, although it'd be nice to see if we could try for a few days. We've got an okay broadband deal at about £25 a month, but you can pay a hell of a lot more than that if you want to. If you want like really, really fast broadband, all singing or dancing, you know, the cost can spiral. Another thing that again, you might argue, well, that's not essential, but it's something that you do have to pay. There are ways around it, which I won't go into now, but is your TV licence. And TV licence is about £13 per month. And if you want to watch any live TV on any kind of device within your home, or use sort of BBC services like iPlayer and stuff like that, you should be paying your TV licence really, and that's 13 quid a month. On top of that, there's things like mobile phones, and again, there's loads of different ways of doing it. I'm talking to you now staring at an iPhone, but I don't have a phone contract. I'm not one of these people who has to have the latest phone, you know, every September when iPhone comes out. I'm not there rushing to go and get the latest model, and I haven't had a phone contract now for probably 10 plus years. What I tend to do is I'll buy a phone outright, which you might think sounds outrageous. But in the long run it actually works out cheaper for me, so I'll buy the phone outright and I'll probably use the phone I've got, as long as it's in good condition, for sort of 4 or 5 years before then, you know, upgrading to the next model. The good news about doing that is that your phone feels bloody fantastic when you get a new one, because your old one does become a bit crap after about 5 years. These folks that upgrade every single year and have to have the very latest one, obviously you've got to put your hand in your pocket for that, and if you're paying for like a phone contract and stuff, it's going to be like, I don't know, it's like 50-60 quid a month or something these days if you want like an iPhone. Back when I were a lad, you could get like phone contracts for like less than 20 quid a month and have the latest phone and stuff. That's a long time ago. Things move on and phones are dead expensive these days. So what do? I buy the phone outright, and then I buy a SIM only thing. And I think me and my wife have both got SIM only deals where we pay something like 10 quid a month. So whether you think that's essential or not, I'll leave up to you. But yeah, for the cost in our house is about 20 quid a month in terms of sort of mobile phone services and stuff, because we both have a SIM only that we pay about a tenner for, and we never run out of data and stuff like that, or minutes and things like that. So it's enough for us. But again, depending on what you're doing, if you're doing like, you know, loads of data hungry stuff, you might have to pay for a more expensive version of what we do. Right. So that's sort of essential stuff, or what I would class as kind of essential. Now, what I found surprising is, based on the graduate wage of £1,675 per month, what I found surprising and upsetting is that if that was me, if I'd just finished university and I was earning £30,000 a month, or if I was out earning the average UK wage of £30,000 a month, and I wanted to do all those essential things that I've just mentioned, the good news is I could do it and I could afford it on that wage. The bad news is I'd only have 42 quid left, £42 left to do everything and anything else I wanted to do within that month. So basically that would be an example of it being unfeasible. It just wouldn't be able to happen. As soon as like one thing breaks, as soon as my car breaks or something like that, or you know, I don't know, something goes up like council tax, that's it, that's me 42 quid gone. So I would say that's probably an example of, a very clear example of people potentially being, you know, overstretched if you're in that kind of situation and stuff. Like I said earlier on, I'm lucky in that me and my wife both work full time and both earn money. So as a result of that, we can afford to do those things because we've got 2 wages coming into the house. And indeed, if you're doing something when you're a little bit older, like a house share, or something like that, or you're living with a partner, then it's going to be more than feasible for you, hopefully. But if you were looking at living alone, I mean, there are some things on my list there that you might be able to reduce the cost of. You're not going to be spending 120 quid a week on food if you're living on your own, hopefully significantly less. So yeah, costs can come down for certain things, but there's other stuff that, you know, the price is kind of fixed and there's not much you can do about it. You're going to have to pay that same cost whether you live on your own or you live kind of in a group or with a partner or something. So yeah. So we ended up with 42 quid left, trying to do it like that, which shocked me because it made me think, you know, £30,000 sounds like a lot, and for a lot of and it is a lot, and for a lot of people, you know, that's the money that they get by on. Like I say, it's the average UK wage, so it was surprising to find once I'd gone through those things that I would class as essential, you'd only end up with about 42 quid left in my particular situation, which is interesting. Some other stuff then I wanted to talk about is kind of, I'm not going to call them luxury items because I think a lot of these things people take for granted these days, and you'd be hard pressed for people to maybe describe them as being luxury items. When we talk about additional stuff that you may or may not want kind of in your household and that type of thing. And it's all kind of entertainment based stuff really, and social life based stuff. So I was looking at kind of stuff that we pay out for month to month. That yeah, we'll say it's luxury items, whether or not it is, you can disagree if you want. So we've got things like Sky TV. So we don't have Sky TV in our house, and we never have done. And I think part of that's because my parents never had it either, so I've not kind of grown up with it, so it's not something I'm ever going to miss. But as you probably know, I am into my sport, and I do like my sports and being able to watch some sport. I'm not as crazy on sport as you might think. I don't have to watch all of it all of the time. But it's nice to be able to dip in and have that choice. So what we tend to do is we tend to use Now TV, which is owned by Sky, but it's significantly cheaper. And basically with that, if you've got a little kind of streaming box or something like an Apple TV or Amazon Fire Stick or something like that, or you can even get a little Now TV stick fairly cheap, you plug that into your telly, and when there's a deal on, you can get all the Sky Sports channels through that for about 20 quid a month, rather than paying like 100 quid getting it through Sky down a satellite dish or something. So that's one thing we sometimes do. Netflix, everybody loves Netflix, don't they? We've got Netflix in our house, and I pay for the most expensive version of it because I like watching stuff in 4K. Bit sad that, isn't it? But we do pay for the most expensive version of Netflix. However, we share the membership with other family members in other households, which again, you might say that's a bit stingy, but you know, they're a multi-billion-dollar or multi-billion-pound company, so I'm sure that they're happy that we're paying and we're watching, and I don't really see the harm in it. So yeah, like my mum and dad have got my Netflix login. I think my brother uses it, my sister-in-law uses it, and what we do there is we just divide the cost up of it between us. And basically, instead of me paying 15 quid a month for Netflix for like the premium 4K package, instead of me paying it on my own, I just pay a £5, and the other people that are involved kind of chip in, and they all pay a £5 and stuff to it as well. So it just means that instead of me, I'm saving 10 quid a month on it, aren't I? Okay. Amazon Prime, we've got, why am I mentioning that as a luxury item? Well, I'm looking at it from the point of view of that you could potentially be watching TV and using the music and stuff on it. If you pay for it up front, I think it's about 80 quid these days, which works out at £6.66 a month, I think. So yeah, we pay for that. We also have Disney Plus because we've got little kids, and also because I like watching Star Wars and stuff like that. Don't judge me on that. But again, things like Disney Plus, we share the login with other family members, and we all chip into the cost. So actually Disney Plus is dirt cheap. It's only costing us £1.66 a month, or the equivalent of, because I think we share the login with like 3 or 4 other households. So saved a little bit there. Music, we're very into our music in our house. The hi-fi system, does anybody call it a hi-fi system anymore? Probably not. Probably didn't even know what a hi-fi is, you lot. But we love our music in our house, and the music's on in the background more than it's probably our main source of entertainment within our house, is listening to music and stuff. And we did used to pay Apple Music $9.99 a month, and that was just for me to have it, and then everybody else would be kind of trying to log into it, and it wouldn't let you play more than one song at once. But what we've done now is we've upgraded to the family membership, which is $14.99 a month, and as a result of that, 6 different people can use it at any one time with 6 different logins. And as a result of that, we now only pay £2.50 per month for Apple Music, because everybody else chips in their £2.50 each, and it kind of spreads the cost that way. Takeaways I'm going to talk about. Are takeaways a luxury item? I think so. Again, sort of average cost. I mean, it varies, but anything from like, if it's just two, because we've got little kids, we wouldn't normally buy them takeaway food. I tell a lie, actually. We sometimes buy them little pizzas and stuff, but they don't really eat all of it. But if it's just me and my wife having a takeaway, it's going to be at least 20 quid. We're not that greedy, I promise. I mean, if you're having something else, like get a curry delivered, Chinese would be a bit more expensive. That could be like 25, 30 quid. Kebab's a bit cheaper. But you didn't believe I'd eat kebab, did you? I do, I eat kebabs, love them. But yeah, with £20 a week, something like that, if you just have it on a Friday night, so that's like £80 a month, just on takeaway food. So yeah, it adds up. Then there's other stuff I've like not even mentioned. I mean, I haven't had a games console for many, many years now. I've not had a games console since PlayStation 3. It's a long time ago now. But these days I know with like games consoles and stuff like that, you can pay monthly memberships, you can download games, can't you? I'm pretending I know what I'm on about here. But again, that's not something we have to worry about in our house. It might be something you want to do. I know that some people pay for like things like YouTube Premium and get the music that way, so that might be something else. And obviously the big one is sort of having a social life, and there is a cost attached to having a social life. You know, something simple like just going meeting up with a few friends at the, you know, the local cafe in Belper, and there's many lovely places that you can meet up, but there's going to be a cost attached to it. If you want to go and sit and have a coffee together and a cake, it's probably going to cost you like the best part of a tenner to go and do that. You're going to be doing that several times a week, well, that's 20, 30 quid a week. And then before you know it, it's well over 100 quid a month. So little things like that add up. It's not me saying don't do them. In fact, it's very important that you do stuff like that, but it has a cost attached to it a lot of the time. So it's worth considering, it's worth thinking about. Maybe that you want to go out on a Friday, Saturday night and, you know, go to the pub, or, you know, go out clubbing, we used to call it. But if you do that, it's not me saying don't do it. Enjoy yourselves. I used to enjoy myself, but again, it's going to cost you a lot of money potentially. Going out and having a big night out, 100 quid easily. It's gone. You do that 4 times a month, that's 400 quid. So it adds up. So yeah, that's kind of luxury stuff. So like something else I hadn't even mentioned is savings. Because it's nice if you can, not everybody's in that situation, but it might be nice to save up. I don't know exactly what you're saving up for. It might be something like your holiday that you want to go on in the summer, and you might think, right, we want to go on holiday next summer, so we need to be putting away £150 a month, or maybe more than that. Depends where you're going and how posh you are and stuff, doesn't it? If you're from Duffield, you're going to have to put like £1,000 away a month for something so you go on holiday. So yeah, there's stuff like that to consider too. Okay. Now I've talked a lot there, and it's a lot to take in, and if you're still with me, you know, hats off to you. But basically all I wanted to do was just sort of reiterate that everything in life, and certainly once you've got your own place or you're renting a place, everything has a cost attached to it, and stuff that I'm not saying that people take things for granted, because I don't think that's the case. I think people recognise the fact that, particularly if you're living with parents and carers and stuff, they're doing the best to keep the wheels turning in the house and keep money coming in so that you can do things like use the internet and that. But all these things have a cost attached to them. And I guess what we've kind of realised here with this average UK wage, or this average UK graduate starting wage of £30,000, I couldn't have the lifestyle that I've got today. Wouldn't work. It just wouldn't fit. I wouldn't be able to afford it. If me and a partner were both maybe graduates and came together, we'd probably quite comfortably be able to afford it and stuff. So it's worth considering, it's worth thinking about. So for this challenge then, I think the best thing to do would be to just maybe sit down with the folks that you live with at the moment, and maybe talk about the ways that they do things. They might have some money saving tips and some money saving hacks and stuff like that. Far more so than me, possibly. And the other thing to do is maybe do a little bit of research about the kind of money you can maybe be expecting to earn once you're doing the job or the apprenticeship, or you've graduated from uni. Once you're doing the job or the career, or going down that career path that you want to go down, maybe do a little bit of research about the kind of money you can expect to be earning, and then maybe do a little bit of research into kind of what lifestyle that means you're going to be able to afford. Okay, and just have a look at it, and sort of see it as being a little bit of a reality check. Some of you will be very lucky. Well, not lucky because you work bloody hard to get where you are, but some of you will come out and you'll be on, hopefully massive money, and fair play to you if you are. Hats off to you if that's the case, and you'll be able to hopefully have a really, really comfortable life. But yeah, just consider some of these things. And have a think about things, have a look at things, and kind of come up with in your head a little bit of a rough costing of what you think it's going to be like to run a house, or your own flat or something from month to month, because it's certainly food for thought. And even me going through this now, I've learned quite a lot here about expenditure and where the money kind of disappears to. It's been fairly interesting. But if you're still with me, thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and if you have a go at this task, then please let us know how you get on, and if you find out anything interesting. Good luck.